Welcome in, guys. Another edition of Right on Rangers Live. We got to talk about it. Let me get some better lighting up in here. We got to talk about this one. I mean, I'll tell you what, it's not easy getting on after games like these, but we just got to go ahead and rip off the band aid. This game is pretty much in a nutshell, I would say, everything that's been wrong with the Rangers of late. Everything that's been wrong with the Rangers of late, you found a little bit of it in this game. I really feel that way. So there's a lot that we can talk about. We're going to try personally to just flush this one down the drain and start looking forward to tomorrow. But we got to talk about a few things. Before we get started, here Right on Rangers, y'all know that we cover pretty much everything sports, but we love to put a little bit of an extra emphasis on all the teams we love from the great state of Texas, including the Rangers, and even on terrible nights and terrible games like tonight. But let's get into it. Let's get into it. By the way, all y'all who are watching right now, as you know, we appreciate you so much. The likes could be watching a lot of different stuff right now, but we appreciate the support, especially needed on nights like this, where there's not a whole lot of positive things to glean from a 9-3 loss to the Los Angeles Angels, I believe the last place team in the AL West. So let's get right into it. Let's get right into it. So we've got a lefty matchup. And it was actually lefty. Heaney was throwing as well for us, right? But we all know that lefties up to this point have kind of been the Rangers' kryptonite. I joked many times, I don't understand why more teams don't purposely try and line up lefties against us if they can. I know in the regular season, you're just not always going to get guys, or you're not always going to get teams that are going to do that, are going to change around the rotation for the purposes of doing something like that. But I will say it's a pretty good strategy. I mean, just start a lefty against the Rangers. Your odds have to improve exponentially because at this point, it's kind of a thing. We can't hit lefties. There's a couple of guys on the team that can hit lefties, but as a whole, this team does not hit lefties well. And it's a problem. Last year, I try to think about what are the main differences from last year because last year, this wasn't really a thing. And the only thing I can really think of, obviously, Josh Young, but he's one guy. I mean, I don't know. Do you guys really feel like at this point Josh Young comes back healthy? Suddenly the terrible showings against lefties magically goes away? I mean, I don't feel that confident at this point. I think Josh Young is going to be helpful, when we're going up against the lefty, but I don't think he's suddenly going to turn us into a hot hitting lefty team. I don't think that's going to happen. I think the only other things I can really think of, Garver, who look is not having a great year with the Mariners. I don't think I would want Mitch Garver right now. But beyond that, there's not a whole lot that's different. There's really not. I don't know what it is this year. Don't know what it is about the players that we've got on the team right now. Maybe it's something mental. In fact, that's one of the only things that I can really think of is at this point, it's got to be a little mental because the differences in who we have on the team from last year to this year, it's not crazy. It's Josh Young and Mitch Garver. I mean, there's not really anybody else that's really left the team that would make this fall off so much from 23 to 24. So, look, the lefty, starter situation is very concerning to me. It's very concerning. And I just don't know what you're able to do right now. Don't know if you're able to make any moves at all to fix it. And this has kind of been the issue. You look at the Rangers offense, what moves are you really going to make? There's nobody on the bench that you're clamoring for to get more at bats at this point. And we're talking specifically about lefties. There's nobody that you're clamoring to get more at bats against lefties. The only real thing you can do is make a trade or pick up somebody in free agency. And I don't even know who's available. We talked about a couple of guys I know CJ Crone is out there, power righty hitter. He played for Colorado last year, put up some decent numbers. I don't really know if there's any awesome free agents out there to go get at this moment in time beyond a trade. So I don't know what the Rangers are willing to do, but I do think that they have to think seriously about this issue. I think that you can easily chalk it up to it's just a slump. They're in a funk. They're going to work out of it. That to me would probably be the lazy response. I think they need to seriously consider making some kind of move and bringing in some additional help beyond a Robbie Grossman. Look, we love the Robbie trade for the sentimental nature of it, meaning he was with the World Series team. He's kind of one of the guys. Love the Robbie Grossman trade. I didn't feel like Robbie Grossman was going to help solve the problem against lefties. That's just me. I didn't feel some like overwhelming confidence. Okay, we got Robbie Grossman. We're suddenly going to be a great team hitting against lefty starters. I never felt that way. It was kind of a feel good trade for me. And I know some people threw out some of Robbie's stats. Look, Robbie is not turning you into a magically juggernaut hitting team against lefties. He's not. Tonight, he had a couple of walks, but we really yet to see Robbie Grossman make a huge, huge contribution in a game. Granted, he hasn't been around that much, but I don't think that was the move that was going to take you to some greater step against left-handed starters. I think another move is needed. I don't know what it's going to be or if one is going to come until later on in the season, but it would be pretty hard, I think, to just trot out this same lineup time after time and continue to make average lefty starters look like aces. Tyler Anderson is a good pitcher. He's a good, solid pitcher. He's not an ace. He's not somebody that needs to have a 7 inning, 2 hit, 1 run stat line. He's not that kind of pitcher. I know the ERA is below 3, but it's largely in part to pitching nearly 7 shutout innings against us, minus the Jonah Heim home run. I really think that the Rangers need to look seriously at the situation and make a move. I just don't know what the move is or what they're willing to do. But I don't think you can continue to trot out this lineup against lefties as is without providing any additional help. It's very possible that they're just going to hold on to the Josh Young coming back. And, when we get Josh back, it's really going to turn everything around and it's all going to just click and fall into place. I hope that that's true. I hope that that's true. But I would love to see them go out and get a righty bat. Right now, in the DH spot, you got Grossman out there. Looks like Duran was playing left field. I think Evan Carter is now available to play, although against the lefty, they weren't going to throw Evan Carter out there. I would get a righty bat that can DH. I think at this point, that would be an ideal move for the Rangers. Can we get a right handed bat that can DH and maybe play the outfield? That's what I think you have to go with. Otherwise, maybe a first baseman or a corner guy who can play first and third that can DH. I think there's got to be some kind of move out there, but they very well may be just banking on Josh Young coming back and saving the day. I know he was cleared for baseball activities. Maybe he is coming along a little bit further than what we expected. I mean, look, maybe that's going to be the determiner. If Josh Young can come back into this lineup and solve the Rangers' lack of offensive production against the lefties, maybe he does. And then, hey, you can just hold and you don't need to make any move. But what's really going to suck is if they bank on that and Josh Young comes back and you still can't hit lefties. I don't see it getting a whole lot better. I think some of these at bats that we're seeing against the lefties are pretty bad. And guys that should be hitting lefties, like Dolly. And I know somebody brought up Dolly in the comments. Dolly should be hitting lefties. If you're a righty, I mean, I can only speak from my own experience playing ball in high school and in college. You should be able to hit lefties if you're a righty. I don't know what the I mean, I know baseball and everybody's got their own little like quirks, but I don't know. The lefty righty matchup is always ideal. Talking about a lefty batter, righty hitter. Some of these righties in our lineup that are struggling against the lefties, Dolly's one of them. I just don't get it. I mean, look, I know you're not going to go 2 for 4 every night against them, but some of these righty bats that we do have in the lineup, it does surprise me to see the struggles when typically some of these guys have hit lefties very well in their career. Like for instance, Leote, he goes 0 for 3 tonight. Leote last year hit over 300 against lefty starters. So it surprises me to see some of these guys just not coming up big. Jonah Heim had hit a home run off Tyler Anderson. I wasn't surprised to see him go deep tonight. But beyond him, really nobody else comes through with anything solid until Tyler Anderson goes out of the game, right? Simi hits the 2-run bomb after Tyler Anderson goes out. We've got a problem. Lefties are the kryptonite at this point. I'm interested to see what the Rangers want to do. And I don't know if they're going to be doing anything, to be honest, until Josh Young comes back and they see how things look with him in the mix. I don't know when that's going to be. Maybe it's going to be early June, mid June, we get Josh Young back. That would be ideal because then you have some time to see how it looks before the trade deadline. Not going to surprise me if that's the move. I do agree, Langford getting him back does provide another righty bat against lefties. That being said, I don't think Langford, before he got injured, was killing the lefty pitching. I mean, I don't know. I'll look up what his splits were, but against lefties, I don't feel like even he was really helping us out a whole lot. And hopefully he's close to coming back. I've always said with Wyatt Langford, just his presence makes a big difference. It probably is the same thing with Josh Young. Just Josh Young's presence in the lineup does make a big difference. But let's take a look here. So we've got Wyatt Langford stats pulled up right now. Look, just the splits. It's not good. Langford is batting 192 against lefties. So Langford batting 192. He's not going to be coming back and helping you out big time against lefties. Again, the presence helps. So there's that. Right? People know who Wyatt Langford is, and they're probably going to fear him a little bit in terms of the raw power, the raw ability. But Wyatt Langford isn't going to be helping you out a ton in that department. Now, Josh Young, let's look at his splits against lefties from last year. So against lefties, this is I think pretty telling. Josh Young against lefties hit 327 last year. So there could be a glue factor there with Josh Young for sure. Clearly, Josh Young hits the lefties really, really well. And I'm sure having him back in the lineup against lefties is going to provide a boost. But I am still worried you've got all these other guys that are struggling. But I'm sure the Rangers want to see what the lineup looks like and how it's producing when he gets back. Hopefully that'll be sooner rather than later. But I'm concerned. I'm concerned. If this is a funk or some kind of just bad stretch, I would say that the timer is ticking on saying that it's just a phase and actually admitting that there's a real problem. I don't think that there's too many more outings that the Rangers can have this terrible against lefties for people to say, yeah, it's just a passing phase. They're going to be able to hit lefties eventually. I don't know if I'm willing to wait until halfway through the season to make that call. I think right now you've had all of April. We're almost halfway through May. So we're talking about 6 or 7 weeks of baseball, and it's been pretty bad. So I'm interested to see where the Rangers go from here. Andrew Heaney, let's talk about him. Andrew Heaney had a little bit of a tough night tonight. Look, was his stuff as sharp as it's been in outings past? No, Andrew Heaney walked a couple of guys, and he could have been sharper, no doubt. Now, that being said, you think about the Nate Lowe throwing error back in what, the third or fourth inning, which Nate Lowe makes a good throw. You watch the replay on that. Nate Lowe makes a good throw. We get that runner out at the plate for sure. I mean, you watch the ball sailing over Jonah Heim's head, and the Angels runner is just starting his dive. I mean, that would have been easy catch, swipe, if it's right on the money like it should be. So it's tough with Andrew Heaney to really judge his start by the box score because you just don't know what happens. That run doesn't score. It's still a tie game. You get another out on the board. So Andrew Heaney, just a little bit of tough luck tonight. I really can't sit here and rag on him. I mean, yes, I know there was 5 hits given up. There were 2 walks given up. I mean, one of those hits was on that Nate Lowe play. So it's tough to judge Andrew Heaney's start. It just boggles my mind that Andrew Heaney is 0-5. Heaney is 0-5 with the start that he has had, with the series of starts that he's had over the past month for the Rangers. It is crazy to me that Andrew Heaney remains winless, but is 0-5. I mean, he has just not pitched that badly. Absolutely does not deserve that 0-5 record. No way. No way. So tough luck for Andrew Heaney. And speaking of the Nate Lowe error, the 3 errors tonight. So you have the Nate Lowe error. You had the Adolis Garcia error out there. Simeon had an error. This was supposed to be, and this was one of the things that helped the Rangers win a World Series. Your defense has to be so good to win a World Series. I mean, I would love to see the advanced stats, but I don't think there's many teams that play subpar defense that are making deep runs in October. And if you look at some of the Rangers' wins, victories in that October run, there were some incredible defensive plays. I mean, speaking of Josh Young, you saw him make a number of incredible plays in the postseason last year, turning double plays. Seager, he turned a couple of double plays, getting out of jams in the Diamondback series. I mean, this team was an elite defensive team last year, and you've seen them kick the ball around a ton in the opening 6, 7 weeks of the year. It is concerning. But again, it's like they pretty much have all the same guys. Okay, you don't have Josh Young and you don't have Mitch Garver. Garver was never really a part of that defensive equation. He mainly DH'd for us. Okay, I get Josh Young, but Doley is supposed to be a Gold Glover. Simeon is, by all accounts, a very solid fielder. Jonah Heim's a Gold Glover. Nate Lowe, excellent defense as well. It is concerning to me that some of these guys are struggling as they are. Just not something you expected. I think we all could probably get why the bats are a little bit colder, but at the same time, it's like the defense, I just expected to just kind of be the what the variable, just the thing that never changed. I mean, like I didn't expect that to be the variable. So the defensive issues are definitely a reason why the Rangers are losing ball games. It's a reason why they lost tonight, right? They lose the lead on that Nate Lowe throwing error. It was 1-1 at that point. Then the game starts getting away from you because of an error. And it just frustrates everybody. The pitcher sees guys kicking the ball around. It's hard to tune that out. Some guys, the really good pitchers, and I'm not saying Andrew Heaney isn't a part of this mix, but the really good ones can tune it out, and it's just, next batter mentality. But it's hard when you're up there grinding on the mound, trying to get outs. You don't necessarily have your best stuff. I mean, Heaney did strike out 5 in what, less than 4 innings. So clearly he had some of his off speed. He had some of his stuff working tonight, but it's frustrating when you're out there on the mound pitching well enough to win, and you've got guys kicking the ball around. So the defense for me is another thing, like the lefty starter lineup, that I think the Rangers really have to consider, evaluate, and figure out. You cannot keep having 3 error nights. I mean, against Colorado, there were a couple of 2 error nights. think multiple games in that series. I think the last game against the Guardians was pretty clean, but it is frustrating to see these errors mounting up on a team that has multiple gold glovers. It does feel like tonight though, like it's hard because you feel like the Rangers are throwing the best they got out there. Like, on some teams you've got some great depth, and on the bench there's some guys that, a lot of people feel like, hey, they could come up and really make a difference. Or maybe there's a guy in the minors that you say, hey, why don't we call him up? He's killing it. Bring him up here. He could really make a difference. I don't know what that is right now, unless the Rangers are willing to go outside of the organization, which I'm not convinced of at this point. I don't really know what you can do. The lineup, I don't think I'd move anybody around at this point. There's just not any clear cut moves. I wish that there was. I think earlier in the year we suggested a couple of things, but right now, with the way the lineup looks, I'm just looking at it right now. There's not a lot of moves that the Rangers can make to get this thing better. It's really just going to come down to guys needing to play better 100%, have better at bats, right? Better mentalities up at the plate. And the Rangers missed some opportunities tonight. I kind of talked about this the other night, but Leote comes up, I believe runners on second and third with 2 outs. Can't get the job done. That was early on in the game. I want to say in the second inning, maybe. Jonah Heim had hit the home run. Maybe it was in the third inning, not sure. I think it might have been bottom 3. And Leote can't get the job done. So the runners in scoring position average, I'm sure, took a little bit of a hit tonight. Looks like the Rangers, crazy enough, that situation I told y'all about, the Leote runners on second and third, that was the only opportunity the Rangers had with runners in scoring position. The only opportunity the Rangers had with runners in scoring position was when Leote made the final out, I believe, of the third inning when there was runners on second and third. I think Josh Smith had just doubled. Grossman not able to score from first on the double, and then Leote comes up, and I think he flies out or something like that. So this is kind of what I said with Leote. With Leote, you're going to get some nice stat nights, but what I'm concerned about is clutch. Are you going to come through, and are you going to get big hits in the clutch moments when there's 2 outs, we got runners on second and third, we need a hit. Not when there's bases empty and you drew a walk, great, you get on base. We need some of these guys to step up and become clutch when we really need it. It's easy to look at a box score. Hey, Leote went 1 for 3 tonight. But then you look at a little bit of the deeper, a little bit deeper than that, go below the surface. And when you're not coming through when it really matters, it's frustrating. Absolutely. Now, I don't know with Dolly, I would imagine that he is probably hurt. And I think what we kind of chalked it up to, honestly, is you're probably going to get better out of Dolly than anybody else right now that you have on the bench. So I would rather have Dolly out there than not. Now, look, if he's going to go 0 for 4 and kick the ball around that badly like he did tonight, he didn't look good tonight. Yeah, maybe they need to consider something if he is hurt. But I don't think there's been any reports out there. Don't think there's been any reports out there at all. I think that he probably does have some kind of ailment or some kind of issue. It's not like bad enough to sit out, but it probably does hamper his ability a little bit. But I think the Rangers are kind of at a spot right now where it's like, do we really want to put Dolly on the IL and just make this offense even weaker than it is right now? So I think it's a tough call with Dolly, but all we're doing is speculating right now. They haven't come out and said anything about a Dolly injury, nothing that I've heard. So I'm interested to see if something comes out eventually, but he doesn't look 100%. I think most Rangers fans that I've talked to say the same, just doesn't look 100% right now. So we'll have to see what happens with him moving forward. But it was a bad night for pretty much everybody. There were a couple of guys that looked good. Simeon hits the homer, but then he has the error. Jonah Heim, he looked pretty good up at the plate. That home run, I really thought it was going to be a big night for him. Wasn't meant to be for the rest of the Rangers offense. And that was Jonah Heim's only hit moving forward. Josh Smith did go 2 for 3. Josh Smith, we talked about him. Crazy enough, he actually hits the lefties pretty well. I mean, Josh Smith, he has been benched multiple times against lefties. I don't think you need to bench Josh Smith against the lefties anymore. Dude's going 2 for 3 and coming through, one of the only guys coming through in a lineup in a box score with a lot of zeros in it as I look up and down the hit column. Beyond that, Grant Anderson comes in. He did not look good. I can imagine Grant Anderson is probably on pretty thin ice. He gave up 3 runs, 2 walks, 2 hits, and 1 inning pitched. Cole Winn came in, gave up a run as well. And then we brought in newly acquired Sean Anderson, I believe. Sean Anderson, think he this year pitched a little bit. Who did he pitch for? Was he with Toronto? Is that who he was with last? I forget. But he came in, gave up a couple runs too, although he did go 3 innings. But 3 innings, 5 hits. I mean, nobody looked good for the Rangers in their bullpen. The starting pitching, Andrew Heaney, again, looked okay, but had some tough luck with the errors. I really have to say is all I have to really say for this one is it's one that you want to flush and forget and move on from sooner rather than later. Like I said, not a lot of bright spots I take away personally from this game. And y'all know I am pretty much always, as much as possible, glass half full. I liked what I saw with the home runs. I liked what I saw from Josh Smith tonight. There's not a whole lot else that's real positive. Um, couple of comments here and there. I'm going to move to. Yeah, DeGrom. I don't think he's going to be back till after the All-Star break. I think August is kind of when they have, set his timetable, like very early August. So the idea is he'd have 2 full months if the Rangers were to make the playoffs, which I think is still very likely. I think August, September, and then you got him back for the October stretch run. So I think DeGrom is still a ways away, probably late July, early August on DeGrom, if I had to guess based on what I've heard. Now, I think with Adolis Garcia, Natalie, assuming you're talking about Dolly here, I think that he is a player that is right around 30 years old, and he definitely had some injuries last year. Of course, had to leave the World Series after game 3 or so, and that was a different injury than what you're referencing here. But it's possible. It's just hard to know. It really is hard to know. And Dolly, I think we should maybe go a little bit glass half full perspective on him. He's toughing it out when a lot of guys would probably just want to sit out. That's kind of how I feel. There are some grinders out there in MLB. There definitely are, but I think there's a lot of guys that have the slightest pain and they want to sit out. And Dolly clearly is not one of those guys. So I want to give him credit. I want to give him props, not knock on him too much. And I'm not saying you are either. But I do feel like the mentality with Dolly right now for the Rangers is whatever you can get from him right now, even if he is a little bit hurt, if it's not making him worse, not making the injury worse, you'll take it over anything else that you could get off the bench. I mean, look, Dolly clearly still has some power in his swing. He hit a home run against the Guardians a couple of nights ago. So, look, he's still able to hit home runs. No, he doesn't look like himself. He doesn't look 100% out there, but he's still driving the ball with power. I think the Rangers are going to take whatever they can get from him at this point. Yeah, I don't know. Too many injuries for sure, but I was hoping we could hash this one out a little bit. I wonder what they could do. Just focusing on the second part of this comment here is, what could they do to improve the culture? So you add in Robbie Grossman, right? You got Robbie Grossman back. I would say that was kind of a culture move. Let's bring another guy back, a vet back from the World Series team. Obviously, you're not going to go get Mitch Garver, who's having a pretty bad year for the Mariners. As much as we love Mitch, Garv sauce, he was awesome for us in the World Series, but you're not going to go get Mitch Garver back. I do feel like when this team was at its best, there were a lot of perfect things that all aligned. And right now, I just think with everybody being hurt, that is hurt, I do think naturally that does affect the culture of the team a little bit. I don't know if you're going to improve the culture of the team any other way than getting guys back from injury. Getting Max Scherzer back. I don't even know if he's going to pitch again. I hope I'm wrong, but it just seems like with Scherzer, there's just so many ailments. I hope to be wrong. But I think Evo and Dunning both threw a bullpen today. I got that report on my phone before the game today. Uh, Evaldi and Dunning both throwing a bullpen. Didn't hear how it went. So I'm going to go look that up after I get off the live tonight. But both of those guys throwing a bullpen is a good sign. Hopefully it went well. But if you can get Dunning and Evaldi back, look, pitching hasn't been the problem. Tonight it was because mainly we were throwing a lot of guys in our bullpen that are not our top starters, are not our top relief pitchers, I should say. But I think getting Dunning and Evo is just a boost, just a little morale boost for everybody. So I think that the culture will improve naturally when the injuries recede a little bit and we get some guys back healthy. I do feel like the Rangers could do with a little bit more of a vocal leader out there. For so many years for this team, it was Beltre, right? Beltre was just that guy, super competitive, was not quiet if you weren't doing what you were supposed to be doing. And look, the Rangers, I think they have leaders on the team. I'm not saying they lack leadership. And I think Max Scherzer is kind of that loud vocal leader, but when you're hurt, it's just different, right? It's just a little bit different when you're hurt and you're rehabbing and you're not like in the trenches. It's a little bit different. I think the Rangers could stand to have a Beltray type leader, a guy that's a little bit vocal, is going to get in your face when you're doing something stupid. I don't think the Rangers have that kind of player right now. And look, last year they really didn't either, in my opinion. Yeah, Scherzer maybe, but he was brand new coming in off a trade, so he's not going to come in and just light it up 100%. But I think the Rangers, they didn't have that last year, and it wasn't necessary for them to win a World Series. But I do think in the slump that they're in right now, you certainly could do with somebody lighting a little bit of a fire. And Bruce Bochy is always going to be very even keel, and I do think there is a time for a coach to get a little bit fiery. But I do just think Bruce Bochy's demeanor is so like don't panic, no panic. And I have no idea what's going on in the clubhouse. Who knows what the conversations are like? But I do think it's got to come probably from somebody other than him. I don't know. I know Boch can get fired up, but from everything you hear from all the players, it's just like, Boch never gets too high, too low. It's always just even keel. Right now, you could do with some people getting in each other's faces. I think that would be okay. This is a bad enough stretch, right? You've lost now six of your last seven, 6 of your last 7 games you've lost. This is a good time for a couple of guys to get in each other's faces. We're not talking about throwing it down, but we need some guys to start putting some energy and injecting some energy into this team. It feels a little lifeless right now. It feels a little lifeless, huge lack of energy. And I just wish that they had that Beltray type voice in the locker room. I do feel like they're missing it. Let's look at the game for tomorrow. Let's start fleshing this loss out. And let's look at the game for tomorrow. So for tomorrow, we've got, let's see, do we get a day game tomorrow? We get another night game tomorrow. Let's check this out. Night game tomorrow. So 6:15 Texas start. And what do you know? Angels are throwing a lefty. Sandoval, too. Sandoval is pretty good. Patrick Sandoval. He's got a 5 ERA right now, but you know that he's probably going to be looking pretty sharp tomorrow night because, you know, we can't hit lefties. So I sure hope that tomorrow's the day that we break out of our lefty starter slump. Jose Urena is going to be opposing Patrick Sandoval. Urena, I think, has done well as a starter. I hope that that can continue, but we shall see what that holds. I think the Rangers showed in his last start they're willing to extend him out a little bit if the pitch count isn't crazy. So I hope that Urena can continue to give us quality innings out there. I think he's doing a very commendable job filling in at this point. Now, looking at the matchups, Rangers versus Sandoval, it doesn't look too pretty. It doesn't look too pretty, honestly. I'm going up and down the career numbers that the Rangers have against Patrick Sandoval, and the best is Simeon, who is 3 for 10. Nobody's hit a home run off of him. Looks like the next highest average, Simi's hitting 300, is Doley, who is 1 for 5. A lot of other guys who are 0 Seager is like 2 for 16 off of Sandoval. Nate Lowe, I believe, is 1 for 9. So the career numbers aren't good. So I gotta say, I probably for the second or third time this year, it hasn't been many times, but this is one of those games where I say to myself, I don't feel super confident going into it. There's a lot of games like tonight, we're facing a lefty, but it's Tyler Anderson. He's not, he's not lefty ace out there. He's having a good year, but he's hittable. But I thought the Rangers could win tonight. I thought Andrew Heaney was going to give him a great chance, and I thought the bats would come alive enough to get a win. But when I look at some of these numbers that the Rangers have against Sandoval and just how they hit lefties in general, I can't say I'm extremely confident. You know that we'll be betting Rangers anyways because that's what we're doing this year. And because we're going to put that positive energy in the air, into the atmosphere environment, anything to get this team going. But I can't say that I feel overly confident for a dub tomorrow. But please, hopefully the Rangers heard me and now they're going to come out with a fiery vengeance and put up 10 runs against Patrick Sandoval. That sure would be nice. That sure would be nice. I would be glad to be wrong and eat my words. But I am a little bit hesitant. I think if the Rangers do win tomorrow, it is going to be low scoring and it's going to be a tight ball game. That would be my prediction. Low scoring, tight ball game tomorrow. But a 6:15 Texas time start. So that'll be what, 4:15 my time. So we'll get a video out to y'all probably midday. We got Mavericks tomorrow, do we not? Mavs play tomorrow, I believe, trying to close out the Oklahoma City Thunder in Dallas. That'll be nice. So that's gonna be going on. Looks like about the same time as the Ranger game. So we'll have each one of those games going. That'll be fun. And you gotta cherish these times in the sports season when you got all this action at one time. You had the Stars going tonight. You got Rangers going tonight. Tomorrow you got Mavericks going. It's great. It's great. So I am definitely excited for this time in the Dallas Fort Worth sports season. It's great. I just hope that we can continue to get some more wins. I know that right now Dallas and Colorado are tied 1-1, about 10 minutes left in the period. So I'm going to go watch the rest of that right now. I'm sure a bunch of y'all are doing the same thing. Hopefully the Stars can save the night. It's up to them. Save the night, Stars. Let's go. So appreciate y'all. Thank you for listening. If, by the way, if you haven't subscribed yet or haven't followed the account, the channel, please do so. We'd really appreciate it. And as we always ask, If you know somebody who's a Rangers fan, share this video with them, share the channel with them. We would love to grow this community. Let's get more good people together talking Rangers baseball and really all things DFW sports. We love it. And again, we appreciate y'all. Hope you have a great rest of the Friday night and a good weekend. Hopefully, we'll catch you at some point later on in the next couple of days. We'll go live after the game tomorrow. Hopefully, it'll be after a Rangers win. And as we always say to end our show, God bless and go